Hi, I'm Jason Pincus. I've been a real estate investor for over 12 years and an agent in this area for 7 years. And I just want to help you learn everything there is to know about real estate. If you're interested in buying a home, the first thing you need to do is talk to a lender to see if you qualify. There are 3 things a lender looks at when qualifying you to buy a home. Is your credit at the level it needs to be? Have you been in the same occupation or type of occupation for at least 2 years? It's making sure your debt to income ratio is where it needs to be in order to take on the new debt of owning a home. For example, if you have an income of $10,000 a month, and this is all pre-tax, and you have $2,000 a month in payments to a credit card or anything else that shows up on a credit report, then your debt to income ratio is 20%. Depending on the type of loan you get, there are different guidelines to what that threshold needs to be for you to qualify for a home. A lender will be able to loan you until you have up to 46% at your debt to income ratio. So if you have $10,000 a month in income and $2,000 a month in debt, so your debt to income ratio is 20%, you'll have another 26% or $2,600 that you can put towards what your payment is going to be. In that case, if you have another $2,600 in debt, that you have that room in your debt to income ratio, that's the equivalent to about a $500,000 home in this area. Your principal and interest on your mortgage, your taxes and your insurance are all going to be factored in, and that's what your monthly payment is going to be. And all of that is accounted for when calculating your new debt to income ratio when you buy the new home. So once you apply with your lender, they'll send you a pre-approval letter, and also that will include the amount of home that you're qualified for. The lender usually takes about a day or 2 to look over all of your information and get that pre-qualification letter back to you. And that pre-qualification letter is very important. When we go to make an offer on a home, generally the listing agent is going to ask for the pre-qualification letter with the offer. That is the first step, talking to your lender, getting pre-qualified and getting that pre-qualification letter. Once you have that, we're ready to go look at homes. We get the pre-approval letter and we sit down, we talk about your must-haves and your wants, and we see what's available on the market. If the home is vacant, we can go check it out at any time. If it's occupied by either a homeowner or a tenant, I'll give that listing agent a call and we'll set an appointment to go see it at your convenience. Once we've seen all of the homes you're interested in, we pick the one you like the best and we make an offer on that home. Right now, it's very much a seller's market. So we need to be very competitive with our offer. So we'll strategize as far as how we make our offer as appealing as possible to the seller. List price is generally one of the more important things, but there are other things besides just the sales price of the home that makes your offer compelling. In the contract, generally there is a due diligence period, usually a week to 2 weeks long. So once we have the binding agreement date, that's when your due diligence period starts. For whatever reason you want during the due diligence period, you can back out of the contract. If you just change your mind, or generally what it's used for is to get an inspection on the home. If something comes back in a home inspection that you weren't expecting, that the seller didn't know or didn't disclose, you can then ask the seller to fix any of those concerns. The home inspection comes back, usually takes a day or 2 for the inspector to send it to us. We look at the list and we decide what's really important, that if anything needs to be fixed, like any functional or safety issues. If it's something serious like that, we would type something up called an amendment to address concerns. The amendment to address concerns is for us to list out the issues that we want the seller to fix for those homes. And everything's negotiable. The seller doesn't have to fix anything. If there's something seriously wrong with the home that the seller doesn't agree to fix, then we can then back out of the contract and you get your earnest money back as long as it's in that due diligence period. One of the ways to make your offer more compelling is a shorter due diligence period, because that's the limbo area for the seller, that they won't get anything if you decide to back out of the contract. The earnest money is to let the sellers know that you have some skin in the game. If you have a binding contract on a home, that home is now off the market. If you back out of the contract after your due diligence period and your financing contingencies, that'll be several weeks that the home is off the market, that the seller could have sold the home to another willing buyer. And you don't have another lawful reason that's stipulated in the contract, you forfeit that earnest money and it goes to the seller. The earnest money has to be turned in within 5 days of that binding agreement. If the contract cancels any time within your due diligence period, you get your earnest money back. It's important when you're negotiating these deals to not ask for the nitpicky things in a seller's market. In most cases right now when a home is listed, sellers are getting multiple offers. If they accept yours and you come up with a huge list of things that need to be fixed that the seller may not need to or feel they don't need to fix, they can say no to everything you ask for, and that will put you in a bad spot. I would recommend in a seller's market like this to really only pick the things that could be serious issues. Minor cosmetic things is something that we can handle after the fact. The whole closing process from an accepted offer to when you're sitting at the closing table generally takes anywhere from 30 to 45 days. Another important thing to know about is a financing contingency period. A pre-approval letter is not a guarantee a lender can give you the loan. It's a first glance look at your financial world, but generally once you get a contract signed is when the lender is going to need a lot more information. They're going to get bank statements, W-2s, basically your whole financial picture. It's possible that something comes back that the lender wasn't aware of. If that happens and it affects your finances, it's possible that the lender will issue you a loan denial letter. The financing contingency is usually about 3 weeks long, and if in that 3 weeks we get a loan denial, we send it to the seller, say, I'm sorry, for these reasons we have to terminate the contract. And if it's a lending or financing issue that is caught in the financing contingency period, you can get your earnest money back. Soon after the due diligence period is when generally the lender gives you the clear to close. The next step is going to the closing table. In Georgia, it's an attorney state. All closings have to take place in front of an attorney. You'll get an email from the attorneys kind of explaining what they need to get everything together to get all the paperwork and all the documents signed. It's the attorney's job to receive all of the funds from your lender or from you if a down payment is required. And then once they have all the funds, they disperse them to the different parties. If the seller has an outstanding mortgage balance, it's their job to send that payoff to that mortgage company. They'll also pay the broker's commissions, the prorated taxes for the year, and there will be a few other fees due to the lender or due to the attorneys. The seller will get the remaining proceeds or what's left of those funds. The lender has to get all the numbers together for closing. They need to talk to the insurance company. They need to get the exact taxes that will be due and a few other figures that will all be put on a lending disclosure. By law, that lending disclosure is due to you 3 days before closing. You should know exactly what all the figures are going to look like. It'll tell you how much money you have to bring to the closing table, what your total loan amount is going to be, what your monthly payments are going to be, should all be on that lending disclosure. It's very common, especially in a military town, you'll be buying a house and not be here for the closing. There are several ways to facilitate the closing if you're not going to be here. You can ask someone to be a power of attorney for you, get a POA. What's very common is a mail-out closing. The attorneys will email you documents that you will have to print out and sign in front of a notary. Included in the email you get from the attorneys will be a shipping label to overnight that package back. Forward that email to one of the employees working at the UPS store. They're all notaries. So you'll send it to them, they'll print it out, you can sign it in front of them, hand it back to them with the shipping label that you got in that email, and then your closing package is back to the attorneys, and that's all you'll need to do to facilitate the closing. Once you're at the closing table, there's a lot of documents for you to sign. The main thing you're signing at closing should look very similar to the lending disclosure you got from your lender a few days earlier. And you'll be signing the same thing several times because that's what everybody needs a copy of. Both brokers, the buyer, the seller will all leave with a copy of the closing statement. Once everything's signed at closing and the funds are all dispersed the way they need to be by the attorneys, congratulations, you own a home. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions about real estate or want to learn more about a specific topic, leave a comment or send me a message. I can't wait to help you.